In the year King Uzziah died, after 52 years of unshakable rule, Israel awoke to a world without its anchor. A prophet named Isaiah, grieved by the nation's drift, made his way to the temple to seek the Lord.
The king is gone. Everything I thought was certain feels like it's crumbling. God, where are you?
He stepped through the towering doors into the familiar sanctuary of Solomon, expecting the ordinary rituals of worship.
Something is wrong. The air is heavier than usual. It feels like the temple itself is holding its breath.
The usual sounds of priests and worshippers were absent, replaced by a profound hush that pressed against his ears.
I've been here 100 times, but never like this. It's as if the stones are watching me.
He took a step forward, his sandals echoing unnaturally loud in the silence, and his heart began to race.
What is this dread? I came to pray, but now I feel like I am intruding on something far beyond me.
Isaiah did not yet know that the veil between heaven and earth was about to tear open before his eyes. A light broke from above the mercy seat, not the flicker of lampstands, but a living, white-hot brilliance that seemed to search the room.
My eyes. I can't. It's not burning, but it's more than light. It's a presence, and I am standing right in its path.
Within the radiance, a form began to resolve. A throne, high and lifted up, its scale so immense that the temple walls seemed to shrink away.
That throne, it belongs to no earthly king. Solomon's ivory and gold is a child's toy compared to this.
And the one seated there wore a robe whose train unfurled across the floor. A river of molten gold and fabric that swept past the pillars and lapped against the altar.
The temple. This is the biggest building in the known world, and that robe alone fills every inch. I am standing on its hem.
Isaiah could not lift his head to see the one on the throne. The hem of the garment was already more glory than a human could bear.
Don't look up. Whatever you do, don't look up. Even seeing the edge of this is more than I was ever meant to witness.
Silence returned, thicker than before. Not the quiet of an empty room, but the weight of a question that had not yet been spoken.
This is it, the moment I die. No man sees God and lives, and even this indirect glimpse feels like my soul is being squeezed.
Above the throne, forms of living fire materialized. Seraphim, creatures Isaiah had no name for.
What are those? Beings of pure flame, yet they don't consume anything. They're part of this place, and I'm not.
Each had 6 wings, 2 covering their faces, 2 covering their feet, and with 2 they hovered, never touching the ground.
They cover their faces. Even they can't look directly at the throne. And they cover their feet. Even their lowest parts are too holy to be exposed.
They moved in perfect, synchronized flight, a ring of fire around the throne, their very existence a declaration of unapproachable holiness.
I am not just out of place. I am an intruder in a realm that should be off limits to anyone with human breath.
Not one dared to gaze upward. Their covered faces bore witness to a glory so consuming that even these burning ones hid their eyes.
They're waiting. But for what? Judgment? If such beings serve the one on the throne, what chance do I have?
The swirling slowed. Every seraph turned as one toward the center, and the air began to vibrate with the pressure of unspoken words.
They're going to speak. I know it. And whatever they say, it will be the last thing a mortal like me ever hears.
And then they spoke not with mortal voices, but with a sound that belonged to the fabric of creation itself.
Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His glory.
One seraph called to another, the cry echoing in perpetual worship, a triple declaration never before heard in Scripture.
3 times, not once, not twice, 3. As if the very essence of God requires a new grammar of holiness.
At the sound, the temple doorposts shuddered. Stone ground against stone, and the thresholds cracked.
The ground isn't just shaking, it's a response. The building itself is recoiling from the purity of that cry.
Smoke poured from the altar, a choking cloud that swallowed the light, leaving only the fire of the Seraphim.
I can't see. I can't breathe. This is what Sinai must have been like. The mountain smoking, the people terrified.
Isaiah clung to the floor, his robes twisting around him, every bone in his body vibrating with the sound of that unending cry.
This isn't a vision anymore. It's an assault on my senses. How can I survive this? How can anyone?
The cry that had been building inside him finally tore through the smoke, a wail of absolute desolation.
Woe to me, I am ruined.
For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty.
Every word I have ever spoken, prayers, prophecies, songs, is tainted. Next to their holy. My voice is an obscenity.
His lips, the very instruments he used to speak for God, now felt like festering wounds in the presence of absolute purity.
I cannot blame them. I am not better. The same unclean words echo from my mouth. We are undone together.
He had seen the throne, heard the Seraphim, and the only possible conclusion was that he deserved to be swept away.
This is it. The holiness I preached is not a concept. It's a fire, and I am dry grass. There is no escape.
He pressed his face into the stone floor and waited, not for mercy, but for the righteous blow he knew he had earned.
I always thought I would stand for the sinner. But now I see there is no sinner worse than me.
The silence that followed his cry was worse than the noise. It was a silence full of expectation, of judgment.
I cannot wash my own lips. No amount of water or ritual can make them clean.
The words he had spoken over the years, some proud, some careless, some false, rose like bile in his memory.
Even my prayers were tainted. Every Lord I uttered came from lips that also whispered compromise.
He was a prophet, but his own prophecies now accused him. The mouth that declared God's word was itself unclean.
I am no better than those I preached against. The judgment I announced should fall on me first.
The Seraphim's holiness was not a standard he could reach. It was a mirror that showed him what he could never be.
There is no ladder high enough, no sacrifice pure enough. I am trapped in my own corruption.
He lay there, waiting for the inevitable, the fire, the sword, the expulsion. Anything would be justice.
So this is how it ends. Not with a shout, but with absolute silence. A prophet who saw God and ceased to exist.
Then, a single seraph broke from the circle. Its wings cut the smoke as it descended toward the altar of incense.
One of them is moving. Not to glorify, but to act. Is it coming for me?
It reached the golden altar, a place of atonement. With tongs of bronze, it reached into the flames and plucked out a live coal.
Fire from the altar. The place where sacrifices burn. But that fire doesn't consume. It purifies. Or it kills.
The seraph turned, holding the coal like a treasure. Its wings beat once, and it began to fly, not toward the throne, but toward the prophet.
It's coming this way. The fire is coming to me. This is how I die, consumed where I lie.
But the seraph's pace was not violent. It was deliberate, as one performing a sacred duty.
It's not hurling the coal, it's carrying it to me? That doesn't make sense.
The coal blazed with the same unbearable holiness as the throne, yet the seraph held it with calm authority.
I don't understand. Why bring fire from the altar to a ruined man? What could God possibly want to do with something so holy and something so broken?
The seraph knelt beside him, and before Isaiah could flinch, the living coal touched his lips.
See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for.
The fire that should have consumed him became the fire that cleansed him. In an instant, ruin became redemption.
The pain is not destruction. It's like a wound being sealed. Something heavy just fell away from my soul.
The lips that had confessed their own filth were now glowing with a holiness not their own.
He said atoned. That word belongs to the altar, to the sacrifices. But the sacrifice is touching me.
The seraph drew back, its work complete. Isaiah remained on his knees, unable to speak. His ruin had been replaced by a stunned, holy silence.
I should be dead. Instead, I am clean. Every word I will ever speak from now on must honor this.
The coal had not just burned away his guilt, it had branded him as a man set apart for a purpose he did not yet know.
What happens now? He forgave me. But the throne is still there. And I am still here, breathing.
The seraph rejoined its fellows, and the throne room stilled. But the silence was no longer heavy with judgment. It was thick with expectation.
Something is different. The air itself is waiting, like the pause before thunder.
The light at the center of the throne intensified, and for the first time, Isaiah sensed a focused attention, a will, turning toward him.
Not the Seraphim. The one on the throne is about to speak, and he's looking at me.
Then the voice came, not through a seraph, but from the heart of the holiness itself, a sound that held the weight of every world.
Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?
The question hung in the smoke like a living thing, demanding an answer from someone in that room.
He's not asking the Seraphim. They're already doing his will without question. He's asking me. I was forgiven for this. The coal, the atonement it was for this moment.
Isaiah's heart hammered against his ribs. The call was open. It was his to take or to let pass. He was still a man of unclean lips just moments ago. Did he dare raise his voice now into this holy silence?
I was ruined. I am forgiven. If I stay silent now, I am throwing his mercy back in his face.
The question still pulsed in the air. Whom shall I send? And every heartbeat felt like an accusation of cowardice.
The coal didn't just cleanse me, it prepared me. These lips are no longer my own. They belong to whatever he commands.
He lifted his head, still unable to look directly at the throne, but his voice came out clear and unbroken.
Here am I. Send me.
It was a surrender and a demand in one breath. The voice of a man who had been ruined and remade.
I don't know what this means, what I've just agreed to. But my life ended the moment that coal touched my lips.
The words hung in the smoke like a covenant. There was no taking them back, and no desire to. Isaiah had just traded his safety for a mission whose cost he could not yet calculate, and he had done it freely. The voice from the throne did not hesitate. It accepted the offer and began to unfurl the purpose for which Isaiah had been cleansed.
Go and tell this people, be ever hearing, but never understanding. Be ever seeing, but never perceiving.
A message of blindness. After being healed, I am sent to pronounce sickness.
Make the heart of this people calloused. Make their ears dull, and close their eyes.
He's not warning them. He's sealing them. This is judgment, not persuasion.
The prophecy unfolded. The land would be laid waste, cities emptied, houses silent, until the Lord had sent everyone far away.
And though a tenth remains in the land, it will again be laid waste. But as the terebinth and oak leave stumps when they are cut down, so the holy seed will be the stump in the land.
A stump. A surviving root. Even in destruction, he will not erase entirely.
Isaiah absorbed the paradox, a mission of hardening that carried a whisper of new life. He now understood his calling was not about success, but about truth, truth that would cost him everything. Then the brilliance began to withdraw, the seraphim returning to their silent stations, the roar of worship fading.
It's ending. The vision is being pulled back like a tide. But I can still feel the coal.
The throne, high and lifted up, became a distant memory, leaving only the hum of holiness in the air.
They're gone, but I am still here, alive, and I carry their words now, branded into my mouth.
The smoke cleared, the shaking ceased, the temple returned to stone and gold, yet nothing was the same.
This silence, it's not empty like before. It's full of the mission I just accepted.
He remained on the stone floor, his robe crushed beneath him, unwilling to forget the weight that had just lifted.
I walked in here a grieving subject. I'll walk out a sent man, sent to speak what no one wants to hear.
His legs trembled as he finally rose. The world outside the temple waited, unaware that its doom and its hope had just been decreed. The prophet who had cried, "I am ruined," was now the only man in Israel who could say, "I have been sent." He straightened his back, feeling the cold stones under his knees for the last time.
My body is moving, but part of me is still kneeling before that throne.
He lifted his hand and touched his lower lip with trembling fingers.
The scar from the coal isn't on my skin, it's in my soul. Every time I speak, I'll feel the fire.
He looked at his hands, the hands that had covered his face in terror. Now they were open.
These hands will hold no weapon, but a scroll. My weapon is the word that burned me.
The temple around him was just stone and gold, but now he understood what it truly housed.
I used to think holiness was about rituals. Now I know it's about presence, a presence that either kills or transforms.
He took a step toward the entrance, each footfall a quiet acceptance of the burden. The heaviness of the call settled into his bones, but so did a strange, sustaining peace. The words he would later pen, "He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities," flowed from the same lips that had felt the coal. The suffering servant on that scroll was no mere metaphor. He was the answer to the altar's fire that had atoned for Isaiah's guilt. Isaiah had cried, "I am a man of unclean lips," and a seraph came with a coal. The servant would not open his mouth, led like a lamb to slaughter. The burning that did not destroy the prophet would, 7 centuries later, become the atonement that swallowed the sin of the world. Isaiah's vision in the temple was the seed. Chapter 53 was the full-grown tree.
That coal, it was only a taste. One day the fire will fall on a substitute who won't just touch the lips, but the whole of sin.
The seraphim cried, "Holy, holy, holy," because sin required a price no man could pay. The coal was a promise that one day a man would. Isaiah's lips, once unclean, became the channel for the clearest portrait of the Messiah the world would ever receive. And when that Messiah cried, my God, why have you forsaken me?" he bore the burning that Isaiah had only glimpsed. The throne room vision was never just about Isaiah. It was an invitation to see the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. The triple holy held a mystery. The Lord is one, yet three. The Father enthroned, the Son in the robe, the Spirit in the seraphim's fire. That fire was the breath of God, purifying the prophet's lips. John said Isaiah saw Jesus' glory and spoke of him. From this vision came the virgin with child, the son called Emmanuel, and the child named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, the branch from Jesse, the lion with the lamb, the river of life, all from the throne. Isaiah never saw the kingdom, but he saw the king. And that was enough. The fire on his lips sealed every word he wrote for the ages. His vision became the cornerstone of hope for a world awaiting the holy seed. No other prophet described seraphim, 6 winged beings of fire, guardians of the throne. No one else saw a robe fill the temple or doorposts shaking at the voice of worship. Only Isaiah witnessed the smoke that concealed holiness and the coal that burned without consuming. And only one man answered with the naked cry, "I am ruined, for my eyes have seen the king." It was not a calculated confession. It was the involuntary collapse of a soul under absolute purity. The coal that touched his lips was the only atonement a man could know before the cross. Isaiah's vision was a preview of the ultimate meeting between sin and mercy, terrified man and holy God. Every prophet after him stood on the ground he cleared, the ground that holiness is not safe, and yet not final. The vision ends with a question and a volunteer, not a resolution. An open door for anyone who has felt the ruin. 7 centuries later, another would say, "Here am I. Send me from a garden called Gethsemane." He walked through the courts, past the altar that had held the living coal, and stood at the threshold of the outer world. The heavy doors loomed ahead, separating the place of vision from the street of commonplace.
I crossed this threshold this morning as one man. I step out now as another.
He pushed the door. Sunlight flooded in, blinding after the dimness, and the sounds of Jerusalem rushed to meet him. The street was crowded with commerce. No one noticed the prophet walking among them.
They have no idea. The God of the Seraphim is enthroned just beyond that wall, and they haggle over grain.
He left the market and walked toward the outskirts, his commission already forming in his mind.
I carry a message no one wants, but I also carry a coal that burned away my guilt. That will be enough.
That evening, alone on his rooftop, he looked at the stars and whispered the Seraphim's cry into the night. "Holy, holy, holy." The words were no longer terrifying. They were his, and he would spend his life giving them to the world. Years passed. The young prophet became an old man, bent over a scroll, a quill scratching the silence.
Every word I write, I still feel the coal. It hasn't cooled.
He wrote of a child born, a son given, the government on his shoulders. And he remembered the throne.
The child from the throne vision. Wonderful. Counselor. Mighty God. He is the one.
He wrote of a suffering servant, pierced for sins not his own, and the coal's fire blazed in his memory.
I saw the robe, the smoke, the burning one. Now I understand. He was always the Lamb.
His scrolls became the bridge between the holiness of the throne and the hope of the cross.
They may reject my words, but I must write them. The fire compels me.
Every prophecy, the Virgin, the Prince of Peace, the servant, was born from that single moment when a coal touched his lips. The voice that asked, "Whom shall I send?" found its answer not just in the temple, but in every scroll Isaiah ever wrote. What if the vision isn't just Isaiah's story, but yours? The same holiness that shattered him still shines in every human conscience. And if you've ever felt the weight of your own words, your own impurity, you've knelt where Isaiah knelt. His cry, "I am ruined," is the only honest place to begin. But the coal still burns on the altar of heaven, waiting to touch the lips of anyone who confesses. That coal has a name, Jesus. His cross is the altar, his forgiveness the fire. He doesn't destroy, he purifies. And then he asks, "Whom shall I send?" That question still echoes through time, open to every heart that has been ruined and remade. Your lips can be cleansed too. Your guilt can be taken away. Your "Here am I" can be spoken today. The vision of the throne is complete. The story now waits for your answer. Isaiah's silhouette stands against the dying sun, a man who once cried ruin but now carries glory. His scrolls, unrolled through centuries, whisper the name of one who was pierced. A cross-shaped light falls on his face, the shadow of the altar's fire made final. The open page still sings, "Here am I, send me." And the throne he saw, high and lifted up, still waits in the center of all things. The seraphim still cry, and the train of his robe still fills the temple of whosoever will enter. The coal that touched one man's lips has become a fire that encircles the world. The words remain, "Holy, holy, holy." They are not far away. They are the atmosphere of eternity, and they have been spoken over you. The vision is ended. The invitation stands. The old prophet stood at the city wall, the wind tugging at his robe. His eyes once filled with terror, now held only a deep and settled peace. The memory of the throne had not faded. It had become the lens through which he saw everything. Slowly, he raised a weathered hand and touched his lower lip. No scar remained, but the warmth of the coal still burned there, a whisper of fire that had never gone cold. He did not speak. He had already said everything with his life. He had heard the Seraphim's cry and answered God's call, and the lips that once cried ruin were now the lips that had sung the gospel centuries before its dawn. A single tear traced the crease of his cheek, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming grace. Then he turned his face back toward Jerusalem, the city to whom he had given the words of the king. The man who had cried ruin became the herald of the world's only hope. His name is Isaiah, means the Lord is salvation. He lived to prove it true. The coal, the throne, the cry of Seraphim, all were for one purpose: to make a ruined man a messenger of grace. His lips, once silent in terror, now speak through every language, every generation. And the one who had been ruined became the one who announced, "The Lord is salvation." The words fade, but the truth never will. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. The cry that shook the temple still shakes every heart that listens. And the question remains, whom shall I send? The vision is given. The answer is yours.